excited to show you guys the quote log LWCs. To start it off, I'll open up my load L17, and here I have a connection to SMC3 for tariff rating. Now as this runs, it's going to pull in all of the tariff rates from my stored rates in the system, and those of you familiar with the process will obviously think that the carrier services here and the quotes you see back might look familiar. Now the problem here is I've got 16 quotes here, and I have a rate entry that I think should be matching and should be showing up for AAA Cooper, but when I go back to my load, I don't see AAA Cooper anywhere. So I'm curious to know why I'm not getting a AAA Cooper quote. Now what I can do is now in the System tab, we have two awesome LWCs that make this process a lot simpler and easier to understand. Here, because I'm doing API quoting, I will enable the API quote logging checkbox on my quote log LWC. Next, I'll go back to the FQA and I'll rerun the rating logic. Now this is really important. This log takes note of the logic that's running in the background when the rating is actually running. So it's only with that checkbox enabled and the process running that will create quote logs in the background. So again, I've run this load. I got my 16 quotes back once again, and still no AAA Cooper as expected. When I go to the System tab, I'll see my quote log is already hard at work. And the result here is that my AAA Cooper carrier service that I was expecting a quote for is telling me that the direct interline does not match the origin and destination on the quote I got. Going back to my rate entry, you can see I have direct interline sent to interline direct. And if I go to these quotes, I'll see that all of them are probably interline direct or otherwise and are not filtered out in the API quoting process. And again, what this shows is exactly what we're hoping to accomplish with the API quote log. We are getting back all of the possible quotes we can from these providers and logging the ones that don't create a quote and giving you the reasons why, giving you the power to debug and troubleshoot and resolve those issues so you can get as many quotes back as possible. Now I'll show you another example here of the API quote log on a P44 load, where you'll see a handful of already generated table rows, which will show me a variety of reasons why I didn't get quotes for certain SCACs. And this is especially helpful because on my Freight Quote Assistant, you'll see that I got 15 quotes back, and in my mind, that's plenty. But if I'm actually looking for a specific carrier quote here, this tells me why maybe a carrier like Saia or ABF did not respond with a quote and the reason why. And for each of these errors, in our documentation, we should have something to point you in the right direction that can help you to troubleshoot. Now I mentioned there's two components in this feature. The other one is called the load match test. Now how this works is it takes our load and rate entry matching process for internal stored rates and then tests whether a given rate entry will match. So here I'll type into the system, and I've got a specific rate entry that I'm interested in seeing, and I know off the top of my head, because I just created it, that it's rate entry 533 for my customer, Indy Irrigation. When I select it and click Test Match, we run the logic and pull in all of the possible mismatch reasons into the table. So here you can see that one reason why these two didn't match is because the value on the status field in my rate entry is pending, but the value in my rate entry status field needs to be accepted, so our details tell us the status does not match the correct parameters. Similarly, my lane here of Illinois to Massachusetts does not match any of the matching lanes for the load, so I can see that that's the issue here. Lastly, I'll mention that on our rate entry table, on the page, we have this same component in the opposite direction. So you can look up whether a given load matches to a given rate entry. And that covers our rate entry test, or load match test, and API quote log features. Again, it's an audit tool to help you get through all of the quoting responses, and again, self-serve and hopefully resolve those issues on your own.